The following audio presentation is a production of Rutgers, the State University of New Jersey, in association with the Division of Continuing Studies and the Institute on Ethnicity, Culture, and the Modern Experience. This production was originally funded by the New Jersey Historical Commission and has been remastered by the Rutgers ITV studio.
On a warm spring night more than 60 years ago, hundreds converged on a new theater near Camden to escape the Depression for a few hours by way of Hollywood's latest cinematic offering. But for the first time ever, moviegoers were able to view the flickering images on the big screen without ever leaving their Packards, Fords, or Duesenbergs. The nation's first drive-in movie thus debuted in Pennsauken Township on June 6, 1933. New Jersey author Russell Roberts tells us it was the brainchild of one Richard M. Hollingshead, Jr.
He got this idea. He would sit in his driveway in his car. He had a screen tacked up to a tree, and he'd put a projector on the hood of his car, on the roof of his car, and he'd watch movies on there. He'd think, this is the greatest idea. And he would run the hose across his windshield to see how it was when it was raining and everything like that. And he got this idea for a drive-in movie. He thought this would be the greatest thing because he thought people could go there. They don't have to get dressed up. They could show up in their cars. They wanted to come as slobs and throw things. They're in their cars. It doesn't matter.
Hollingshead's theater opened with the showing of Wife Beware, starring Adolphe Menjou. Some 600 cars jammed into the lot, paying either 25 cents per person or $1 per carload to watch movies on a giant 30 by 60-foot screen 12 feet above the ground. Business stayed brisk for a short time, but soon the novelty wore off and the realities of the Jersey summer, heat and mosquitoes, began to take some of the enthusiasm out of the drive-in patrons. There were also some technical difficulties.
They didn't have the little speakers that everybody remembers in the drive-ins that you hook onto the car windows. They had basically a huge loudspeaker, and it would blow the sound out to all parts of the theater. The only trouble is the way sound carries. The people in the front were hearing it quicker than the people in the back, and it was not synchronized with the film. And so you were getting a lot of goofy kind of sound and film synchronization problems, and it really didn't become very successful. It was a brief thing, and then it just faded.
But just like the screen heroes it helped to immortalize, the drive-in made a spectacular comeback just when things looked hopeless. By the 1950s, the mass migration to the suburbs had begun, but no new indoor theaters had yet appeared. Gasoline was cheap, and so was land. And unlike a traditional theater, the drive-in offered a real alternative to that newfangled invader of the living room called television. Some film historians even say Hollywood would not have survived the TV era without the drive-in. By 1958, more than 4,000 outdoor screens had sprouted up around the country, offering mostly second-rate horror and teen romance fare at bargain prices. Rutgers American Studies professor Michael Rockland says the drive-in was a perfect match with our increasingly mobile society.
All sorts of roadside institutions would have a ready market in New Jersey because we live in New Jersey, for the most part, very spread out, and yet we're densely populated. So you could have all kinds of institutions like drive-in movies and diners and that sort of thing. They'd go here in a way they might not go in other places.
It was not just a different way to see a movie, but a whole social ritual, now foreign to many young people.
And the whole experience included food and walking around among the cars, and also the fact that you could go there very inexpensively with a family. Many drive-ins charged by the carload, not by the person. And also, I remember once going to drive-in, hiding 2 of my kids in my trunk.
And the casual atmosphere lent itself to audience participation antics that would surely be out of place in a staid indoor movie palace. Rockland recalls one novel approach to the climax of a typical drive-in monster movie, which starred a lobster-like creature called the Tingler.
And an announcement came over the loudspeaker. This was not part of the movie, you understand. Came over the loudspeaker saying, "Help! The Tingler is loose in this drive-in movie. Everybody, put on your lights, honk your horns, and scream for your life." And so you had this whole drive-in movie. Everybody is honking their horns and flashing their lights and screaming at the top of their lungs. Now, you couldn't do that in a regular theater.
But like some B-movie monster jumping off the drive-in screen, suburbia began to reach its tentacles farther and farther out from the cities, devouring any real estate in its path. Land was now at a premium, far too valuable to use on things like drive-ins. The shopping mall multi-screen cinema complex soon replaced the neighborhood theater, and the drive-in began to disappear. Alas, New Jersey is now one of 4 states with no drive-ins at all. But both Roberts and Rockland are optimistic they will once again be a part of the Garden State landscape.
It's still what Hollingshead thought it would be, a nice, convenient place to bring the family. Everybody can sit in the car, they can hang out, they can, act like they can at home, and they can watch movies, and it's kind of a neat experience.
I know if there were drive-in movies, I would go to them. And I bet you they will come back on a limited basis someday. I think they will, because they'll become a whole new novelty to a new generation of Americans. Somebody is going to open one up, and then I bet you a few will open up. Right here in New Jersey, I bet, is where it'll happen.
So hurry and grab that butter popcorn before the next feature. And don't forget where the cars park. I'm Tim Esbar for New Jersey Time.